For the creator track, we have Yehiel Atias of Hexa 3D. They're part of the panel creating 3D products for every stage of the life cycle. El, thank you so much for joining us today.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Well, why don't we get started? Can you tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do in the metaverse?
People typically refers me as L, and I'm Hexa CEO and one of the co-founders. Recently, we actually started leading the Kronos Group EMEA outreach, which is super exciting. It's the first, I think, large attempt to connect both the Israeli ecosystem, right, which is filled with XR experiences, technologies and initiatives, to the world's largest XR initiative. So these are today my two main roles. Obviously, being a dad in Tel Aviv is also time consuming. So balancing those kind of three roles.
Can you tell me a little bit about what you do in the metaverse?
As a company or as an individual?
Ooh, where would you like to start?
uh, we'll start as an
Yeah,
individual,
yeah.
right? So my role, as Hex CEO is basically finding those new experiences. My passion is working with entrepreneurs that are building the next layer, working with top executives from the segment that we work with, technology companies, marketing companies, or retail companies, and work with them to kind of find out, what can be done using today's technology or even future ones. So that's my role as an individual. And Hexa is a company. What do they do inside the metaverse? It's a platform to create, manage, display, and analyze your 3D projects. Right. So literally the first end-to-end solution that can facilitate very large scale 3D projects without sacrificing quality. So we work with Amazon, and Macy's and Crate and Barrel and Logitech and Unity. We have partnership with Snap and Epic Games and you name it. So that's kind of the two, what I do and what the company does.
You named about four like foundational core systems to having a measurable, really robust ecosystem for metaverse AR and VR. I'm super interested to know more there.
Yeah. So we've actually, we spent the past 7 years working with top executives, specifically from the retail space. And we worked with them to change the way they visualize and communicate their products using synthetic data. That's been the focus, right? Way before it was actually called synthetic data, by the way. And because we started so early, the infrastructure we've built was very broad, right? So it was very clear to us at the early days of Hexa that if we don't build that end-to-end solution, those enterprise customers that we try to entertain these ideas of XR technologies, they won't be able to adopt it. And without closing the cycle for them, right, it has to be extremely easy for them to reconstruct assets. It has to be extremely easy for them to access and share data, which is, one of the main goals the Kronos Group, was established for. Displaying the content or syndicating it out. Also, these are all the value extraction strategies that we work in, right? So without that, there isn't any value. And then the last part of analyzing those 3D projects, how do you even analyze it, right? So these are kind of the four key elements, because you can reconstruct those assets in so many different ways. There's only one way that will maximize its online value or its value for that specific use.
In my role as a strategist and a marketer, I found that working with clients often they'll have maybe one of those pieces. They may have assets, but they don't have hosting. They may have hosting, but they don't really know distribution, right? Like, and so to be able to give a single solution where you hit those really foundational elements, right? Like measurement was a huge question, and it often is like how, why, what's important. I mean, there's so many things there. So to
Yeah.
give those enterprises that leg up and to start with everything in one box sounds amazing. How often would you say you're in the metaverse, and what kind of things do you do?
So I want to challenge you on that,
Mm.
right? What is a metaverse, right? So how do you call, right? So that's our recent panel with Oli and Bar from AWE. He mentioned the metaverse, right?
So that's actually been one of the takeaways that I've had from doing having all of these conversations this month with the AWE 2022 preview has been, in order to answer that question, most people have had to at least define, like, what is the metaverse? And throughout it, I've seen that there's definitely not alignment about what the metaverse is. For some, it's as simple as technology enabled in real time where you are. So, like having a mobile phone and a Zoom conversation are plenty metaverse for those folks.
Yeah,
And there's other folks who really want interoperable embodiment with standards and safety promises, right? And
I
so
totally agree.
it's a huge spectrum. The metaphor that I've just been loving, Christopher Lafayette shared with me a week or so ago, which was this idea of the metaverse being there, and that we sort of were on the surface of the metaverse. I was almost imagining it like a globe, right? And that we're on the surface of that metaverse, and we're starting to bore down into immersion, into interoperability, and into what it can be, but that we're still just in a very high level, application of, like, what is, where there are foundations for, but not yet. It's kind of like a headless metaverse right now.
So I couldn't agree more. And you know what? When the metaverse, when the M word started, it was just a buzzword. And for a company that we're around for 7 years, so we survived the VR hype and the AR hype, and now the metaverse hype. Exactly. And we learned to avoid buzzwords and not use them and focus on what actually creates long-term value for our partners and our customers. And the metaverse is different because unlike all those buzzwords, it kind of, now that we're after, I think, the hype wave, it kind of sticked, right? So I think it's good that people are using it for their own interpretation of what it can be, because unlike a gaming engine, right? There's way more applications, right? It's not limited to any one specific use. And I'm starting to get more and more comfortable using that word, because I understand that for some people it will mean something exactly like you said, and for other people it will mean like completely something else. And I think it's fine, because we're just getting started, right? Even after 7 years,
Yeah,
I wake up every morning and I feel I'm just getting started. Like every day for us is day one when we're working on these type of projects and technologies.
it's so funny to, like, know how far we've come and to know how far we want to go.
Yeah.
And they're both gigantic, and that's hard to rationalize.
I'll add to that. We
Yeah,
had
yeah.
Hugo. We had Hugo from Qualcomm, and obviously we have Neil, Kronos president, and you have those four, like three titans. Each one like 15 years, 20 years working in the metaverse. Those type of. It was so fascinating to see their perspective and how they see those. How did they can translate what's happening now in the market. So
Hmm.
yeah, I can totally relate to what you're saying.
The thing that I wholeheartedly agree with, what you said, right? It's that the metaverse is socially and culturally ubiquitous, where, right, like, we've been arguing for 10 years about, is it AR or VR or MR or whatever within siloed communities. But, like, hey, is there a metaverse? Is it for me? Where, grandma's going to be using it, is, like, now very much a social conversation. And so, to your point, I think that's really beneficial, because I've heard several times within the preview series, we need input from diverse points of view about what do you want and expect and want to do in the metaverse, so that we can go build that. And, right, like, having that input and those foundations is kind of the recipe, to get into that Shangri-La, where whatever it is.
Isn't that what's so great about AWE?
Yes.
Exactly that, right? When you go and you don't it's like you meet those, you know, like crazy and fabulous people. They're building stuff. Some of them are like, oh, what is he talking about? And some of the, oh, this is really interesting. And that combo of really innovative things are, they open up. And for us, that we have to work, we're a startup, we have to work on what works now obviously some of what we're working is for the future, getting that what's going to happen, or getting your mind blown by experiences or thoughts, or that people are actually working on. I think it's fascinating, right? It's an educational and so important for us as people of the industry to go and experience that.
So speaking of like those big ideas, what's something that you're hoping to share with your audience at the expo this year?
So we're representing the Kronos Group, and I cannot emphasize enough how amazing this organization is. These companies compete like aggressively outside of the group, but when we're inside in the working groups and we share the pains and we share, the kind of bottlenecks and restrictions and frustrations that we're having from current infrastructure, the fact that I can go to each one of the members, and if it's like every single like tech company that respects itself is part of the Kronos Group. The fact that I can go and get that representative, and he's or she's a door opener to anyone within that organizations, is mind blowing. And it's such I literally, I have no idea if there's any equivalent of that type of organization out there. I literally, I looked because it's so interesting how this came up with the guidance and leadership of Neil. But we're representing the Kronos Group, and I think that we want to share some of our work, and we want to get more developers, we want to get more companies involved, and just for them to get the essence of what the Kronos Group is. That's, for me, that's the whole like purpose of the trip.
How fun to come to such a diverse event with such a bold and open mission, right? Like you're gonna make a lot of friends on that. And I am so excited that I have a GLTF shirt that I wear proudly. Right, Kronos Group is doing fantastic things, and standards of even just assets and communication has been a major block for folks getting
Yeah,
interoperable,
WebGL, right? So
right?
my co-founder is a 3JS contributor, right?
Hmm.
What could have do without a 3JS for now, right? So it's like these are the foundations of our industry these days. So it's so important.
Ah, and is there, you kind of touched on it a little bit earlier, but is there anything that you're hoping to experience or learn yourself this year at AWE?
It's exactly that. It's going through the halls. It's listening to people that are driving the industry. For me, it's like a breath of fresh air to go and see all, like, it's such a small community, and to see the people that you work with and respect and watch and follow, to see them in person and listen to them and have that, informal conversations, because everybody's so, yeah,
Yeah.
they're so engaging, they're so open, they're so welcoming. Again, it's that type of an event. I think it's
Hmm.
so different than other events that are super commercial, and it's just different.
That
So for me, it's just that experience.
community at AWE is across the board, just hands down a top pick for everybody. So shout out
And
to
that is
Ori and
top
team.
down, right?
Love it. Okay, we're in the speed round. Do you have a metaverse avatar? And if so, what does it look like?
Yeah, unfortunately, I don't have it. I don't spend that much time in inside environments. So my role is more the day to day, and my CPR, Chief Product Officer, he's having all the fun. So he's the visionary. He looks like ahead. I have to take care of business today.
Our next question is really more of an opportunity for you to shout out to or introduce us to somebody that's been instrumental or influential in your journey with the metaverse. Is there anybody that you want to shout out or give props to?
A very weird encounter in CES pre-COVID. It was the last day of CES, and we were presenting as part of the Israeli pavilion there. And this dude came. This looks interesting what you're doing. That person name was David Randall. David is now leading the go-to-market team, a special computing team at AWS or in Amazon in general. Back in the days, he was working for the Salt system, building some really, really interesting projects. And We spoke about community and we spoke about, the way that this industry is building itself, led like top down, Ori, like leading and giving us that inspiration of how we should act and how we should work with one another, or leaders like Neil with the Kronos Group. And I think that one of the most influential people in my journey was David. That these are the people that invest so much effort and energy in making companies like Hexa and many, many others, because obviously Amazon and AWS are seeing everyone in the market, and really help them, make an impact, and guides the way into massive companies like Amazon. For me, David is now an old friend, and it's just the essence of our industry.
Thank you so much for sharing that. That's really sweet. So, was there anything that we missed, or anything in particular that you'd like to share with the AWE audience before we go?
We spoke about that. It has been a rough journey for us. 7 years now in the making, and it's so challenging. But we're blessed with investors and team members that really believe in our journey and what we're trying to accomplish here. And it's very important to us to share some of it back. So now Hexa is at a stage where it has the resources, team members that can support a lot of initiatives, and we put a lot of efforts and resources in facilitating and working with younger startups. So it will be of value to us, and we will really feel humble if more and more startups will start using our tech stack. We don't charge for that. We give people content for free, and these are like top super expensive assets that they can use inside their experiences. And we do it because we think this is like the only way that the industry can go into a place where more and more experiences pop up. People shouldn't pay for content anymore. It should be paid by companies like Hexa, or facilitated, or given through the brands. Because today is so expensive and so complicated to do it, I think that companies like Hexa and others should do it for the ecosystem. So that's my
And
current
so,
goal.
if startups working in XR, or folks who want to take you up on this offer, how should they get in contact with you? Should they visit the website or find you at the event?
I'm pretty active on LinkedIn. Just connect with me or text me. Let me know what you need, and I will do my very, very best to either get you in contact with my network, which I do on a weekly basis, or share some of the resources that Hexa is developing.
What a fantastic place and fantastic offer to wrap this up on. This has been such an inspiring and really a lovely chat. I love how you started with the importance and the value of community and collaboration. You touched on the uniqueness of how standards groups like Kronos can like bring diverse folks together, and then wrapping it up with that generosity. Way to live that ethos. This has been Yehiel Atias, CEO and co-founder of Hexa 3D. Thank you so much for joining us, and can't wait to meet you at AWE 2022.
Same here. See you soon.